Hi, welcome back everyone. This week I started implementing the emotion system for the player. The guy's emotion system will rank the mood from 0 to 20. It will be divided on 3 main emotions. From 0 to 6, the guy will be feeling sad. From 7 to 13, the mood will be neutral. And from 14 to 20, he will be happy. The moods or emotions will be displayed on the animations and behaviors, and these animations will change depending on the mood level. For now, the impact on the game will be purely aesthetic, without modifying the gameplay. This will be an optional game mechanic that the player will decide to engage in. The point is trying to achieve to feel that the guy is more like a friend or a pet rather than a robot or a slave.
Caterpie, you're mine! Yes! I did it! Ha ha! I did it! I got Caterpie!
The most noticeable feedback or indicator is that the guy's face will change to show the motion level. Because the chosen animation style, the eyes are the ones that reflects all the facial expressions. This was previously decided when ideating the game to both differentiate the art style and also because it will be easier to work on and scale to different guys. Instead of having to model and animate an entire face mesh for each guy, this cartoonish style will allow to share the face expressions between the playable characters without having to customize them to each one of them. On top of the constant change of the guy's eyes, some specific animations will trigger depending on the mood. In this early version, only a few animations were made for the guy to react when happy and when sad. The happy or sad emotions will trigger when we call him in social mode. Another time that the guy will show happy emotions will be when performing a successful operation, like when we finish smashing a destructible object. The high option won't be a trick itself, since it won't increase the obedience level, but rather an interactable to cheer up our guy. Here he will react differently depending on the mood, without reacting in any way when in neutral mode. Another place in which the motion level is displayed is in the guy menu icon and the slider when in social mode. In social mode, additional improvements were done to the tricks. 2 new games were made for 2 different tricks. For the backflip trick, the challenge was similar to the jump trick, by having to charge the jump. But instead of having to time the click event, on this one, the button will be spinning to add difficulty, and to resemble the animation that the guy will end up doing. When designing this, I learned about masking UI elements. Because I couldn't make a circular button, I had to make a square button and mask it with a circular shape, so we can only click on the green area. Like in the previous challenge, if we fail at any point, a red indicator will pop up and we will have to start the challenge again. The second minigame was created alongside 2 new high five animations. This simple game is just properly timing a high five, with the challenge being having to guess which hand he will raise. All these game modes are just placeholders and introductions to the type of gameplay we will experience in the social mode. Additional instructions, feedback and balance will be done in the future. The mood system was also implemented on the tricks. Now, on top of the +1 obedience increase when performing successfully a trick, the player will get +2 mood out of 20 when clicking on a trick, regardless if it's doing it correctly or failing. The logic behind this behavior is that the fact of engaging or socializing itself is what improves the mood of the guy, and teaching him the trick by being successful is what improves the behavior. This is similar to when you are interacting with your pet in real life. Because of this, the guy can also get tired of playing, so the mood will increase the first 5 times. When you are playing with him on a day, but after that, the guy will not get happier. And actually, his mood will decrease after the 7th iteration, because he got tired of playing. The counter will reset on a daily basis. A game day is 10 minutes in real life for now. All this system will be tweaked in the future. From a gameplay perspective, the limiting amount of interactions will add a gameplay mechanic that rewards the guy for being social and training obedience. At the same time, if the player only cares about obedience, it has to put effort in the mini challenges to not fail and run out of trials that add mood. And if it fails, then the player has to decide if it wants to keep increasing the obedience by decreasing the mood stat, like a bad pet owner would do. Like a bad pet owner would do, by forcing the pet to do a trick rather than teaching it by playing with the guy. To keep track of the mood while testing the game, additional text was added to the stats of the UI. Those were the only changes to this version. All the work was done to the guy's behavior rather than the world. As you can see, most of the work was done ideating all these new additions and then how to implement them, with something that may look so simple actually requiring a lot of planification and work. After working on the guy, I decided to work a bit on the world. As you can see, a new tree asset was added to the world. Here I was working on a different behavior for the trees, so they would be able to move their leaves with external forces like the wind, to react to the world. For that, I was testing how I could deform the pre-existing mesh geometries of the tree, so I wouldn't have to make custom animations. Also, I wanted them not to be scripted and feel natural, but reacted based on the intensity of the force applied. I was experimenting with joints between the trunk and the leaf objects, so the leaves would be tied to the body, I tried having them tied with a spring joint, since this one would allow them for some wiggle and movement. And different properties could be changed, like how far the spring could bounce back, the strength required, etc. After long testing, I made some progress, but I decided to pause the development since this ended up being harder than I anticipated and isn't a vital part of the game. Plus, maybe in the future I will end up finding a proper or better way to do it, so better wait to see. After that, I mostly kept working on the other worlds this week. The first new world I made was this dark world. On this one, I was mostly implementing what I learned about lighting previously. I changed the lighting to make it dark, as well as added some additional button lighting to the trees, to create an underglow and create a different mood to the scene. I added additional energy cubes, since these ones have their own light source, that would contrast better the dark scene. Another variation that came out of this world was the fog world. This scene was the same scene than before, but I was testing and learning about the fog effects that Unity provides. The main issue with this one, as you can obviously see, or more specifically, can't see, is that because I have different cameras being located at different distances from the guy, I couldn't make a fog working that would allow for both of them to show the exact amount of the world I would like to. So, in order to see what I was trying to achieve on this world, the camera that makes sense is the one in the social view one. Even if it wouldn't work properly, this actually helped me get inspired on how future worlds could look like, as well as thinking how to implement both day and night cycles, as well as dynamic weather that could be randomized or could be map dependent. The last world to travel I added on this update was another regular forest world. The main difference in this one is that this time I made it by manually adding game objects rather than by using the Unity terrain tool. I got a 3D glass asset rather than using the 2D grass textures like before. These ones will no longer move with the wind, but they did not impact the GPU usage like before, what would make it actually playable on my phone again. Also, my objective was to apply the deformation effect that I mentioned that I was testing in the new tree before, in order to make the grass interactive rather than static. But as I said, it was not vital for now. The lighting got reworked as well to not be an issue for the graphics, by implementing the moving sun I made in the previous update and keeping it into a single light source. Apart from the basic exploding rocks, some new additional rocks assets got imported as well, but these ones were just for looks. A bug or an issue to notice is that because all the worlds were modified out of an existing previous iteration of my scene, they had the old managers and behaviors, like the old trick system. With this, I understood that it wouldn't make sense to start making final worlds until I had finished all the game systems and mechanics, unless I would make the changes to each individual world already created. But this will be a very inefficient way of working and will take longer the more scenes I will have. The final addition I made to the game, in the main scene this time, was to implement the pause menu properly, by actually stopping the time this time. Pun intended. I did this by setting the time modifier to 0. This also taught me that for future effects I could slow or speed up time, and I think that would be fun to experiment with, to create cool effects. So that's it for this week's video. It was extra long even if it was just 2 updates, because I tried to throw some jokes here and there. So let me know with a like down there if you guys really liked it, or you would prefer a more traditional editing style like in previous videos. If you guys are interested in the rest of the development, subscribe so you will be able to follow the progress. If you guys have any comments, please leave it down there. I will be happy to read your thoughts. So that's it for this week. Bye!
No, let's climb some trees. What do you say?